Have you seen Frogman? Have you seen Frogman? Okay, I'm a few months late to the game here, but today we're going to be talking about the found footage horror film Frogman, which was released this year. Y'all may know I don't stay on top of my modern horror releases. I do not stay up to date. I find that slogging through low-budget, forgotten trash of decades past is way more fun than putting up with whatever sleek, modern, pretentious horror is coming out to theaters and streaming. However, I guess with both of those options, you're enduring a lot of crap to find a rare gem. And my friends, Frogman is a gem. A green, slimy, warty gem. So I resolved to go into this film completely blind, and anytime I ever heard anyone start talking about it, I left the video, left the conversation, whatever. And I'm so glad that I did, because I just wanted to go in totally pure. It was filled with so many surprises. So I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. This is a spoiler-free video in case you haven't seen it. I am going to walk you through the setup, but I am not going to give away any of the miracles that happen in this movie. Here's your synopsis of Frogman. When Dallas was a kid, he inadvertently captured video footage of Loveland, Ohio's cryptid monster, the Frogman. Over 20 years later, he decides to dispel the rumors that he's a hoaxer. He and two friends journey back to Loveland to capture indisputable evidence of the Frogman once and for all. This film was directed by Anthony Cousins. It was written by Anthony Cousins and Jack Carsko. And the primary cast is the three friends. Dallas is played by Nathan Timoshuk. Scotty is played by Benny Barrett. And Amy is played by Chelsea Grant. I watched this first on Prime. I rented it on Prime. And then the second time I watched it was on Vudu, aka Fandango, for free. However, these options are changing all the time, so I encourage you to just look it up and see where you can watch it. This film was inspired by a real cryptid. The Loveland Frog, or the Loveland Frogman, or sometimes known as the Lizard Man, was first seen in Loveland, Ohio in 1955. It is essentially a 4-foot-tall humanoid frog that walks on its hind legs. This film definitely pulls a lot from folklore and paranormal studies, and I think it is applied really well. So have you ever heard of legend tripping? It's essentially the act of going out and pursuing urban legends. Like going out and investigating an urban legend, you know, whether it's the Crybaby Hollow or Crybaby Bridge or something like that. Basically what these three are doing is sort of legend tripping. In a way, they are going to chase down this urban legend, the Frogman. So we kick the story off in 1999 when Dallas is a child and he's vacationing with his family, and he's got his dad's camcorder and captures the Frogman on film. And then we cut to modern day, and we're watching this very obnoxious YouTuber calling Dallas a hoaxer and commenting on his lackluster career as a filmmaker. So Dallas is he's had enough. He's decided he's gonna put an end to all this. He's going to go and get indisputable evidence of the Frogman. Cue his quest to convince his friends to accompany him. Eventually they do make their way to Loveland, settle into a really cute Airbnb, and then they set off into the woods. So let's talk about these characters. Dallas, first of all, you could say he's kind of a bum, or he's down on his luck. He can't keep a relationship, he doesn't seem to have steady work, and he has been basically crashing in his friend's house for far too long. His current life situation of not amounting to much can definitely play into the narratives that the skeptics are trying to weave, that he's not a credible person. And so you can kind of tell that Dallas sort of feels like a failure in life. So by pursuing Frogman and by hopefully capturing this Frogman evidence, not only is he solving a mystery, but he's also sort of clearing his name. Like, he's also sort of getting his footing in a life where he feels out of control. So I think it's really cool that you're seeing Dallas become really invested in Frogman for more reasons than one. And maybe he is kind of a bum, but he's a very likable bum. So yeah, he's seeking out Frogman to try to get his life straight and get back on his feet. Now, so Dallas recruits Scotty, his friend, as a cinematographer. And Scotty is a videographer, but he's like shooting weddings and stuff. That work isn't steady, so he's also working at a coffee shop. And that's not like failure, but you know, I think a lot of us can relate to this. Like, you would think you'd be rich by now and just only working one job by the time you're in your 30s, but it doesn't always work like that. So that's just a very relatable foundation the film is laying. And then there's Amy. She's the successful one in the group. She's an actor, a working actor who's gotten several local commercials, but she is finally ready to take it up a level and go to LA. So she actually is about to move to LA. But then Dallas is like, hey, why don't you be in my movie? It's a movie about Frogman. So all of these characters are longtime friends, and I really, really, really like the chemistry between all of them. It is just so much fun. And it's really cool to see how Dallas basically balances these friendships with his own personal journey of like self-reconciliation. Let's look at the overall vibe of this movie. So you know how like when you go onto streaming services or go onto Google now, they'll give you like a few keywords to describe what a movie is like, I guess, because we can't read full paragraphs anymore or something. Well, I have 4 keywords for this film. This is like how I would categorize or describe this movie. Road trip, cryptid, woods, and found footage. So if any of that is interesting to you, this could be the film for you. This film is great because I love when the characters get to have a little bit of fun before things go south, you know? I like being able to form a little bit of bonds and just have some humor woven in. Like, they just have fun. The trip up there and the setup and everything is great fun. However, there is still this strange impending tension throughout, like from the get-go. And maybe it's just because it's found footage and that's how found footage feels, but you're like uneasy. The movie truly has this like threatening feeling throughout. It's building up to something, okay? And the payoff does not disappoint. It builds up to this ending that is just bonkers, batshit, bombastic. So when I clicked on this film in Real Good, the app that I use, it listed it as like horror/comedy. And at first that was like putting me off. I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch this. Like, I wanted to be taken seriously, you know? And thankfully this isn't a horror comedy, but I do see why it got that label put on it, because there is a lot of comedy woven in to the dialogue and stuff. Just like during the good times, you know? It's just, there's so much that's funny in this film, and I love that. But I guess it's also partly described as a comedy because we are talking about a giant frog that walks on 2 legs. And as goofy as that sounds, I bet if you saw one in the woods, you wouldn't think it was so funny. But yes, despite the goofiness of a gigantic frog, the film does manage to take the concept seriously and execute it in a fun but frightening way. Found footage is so much fun to me because I'm watching with curiosity, like, how are you going to make this effective with limited resources, with limited capabilities, you know? You're shooting this by hand on video with an old camcorder. Like, how are you, you have these bare-boned resources, and I love to see how creative people can get. Another thing I really love about found footage, especially in this movie, is you get to have that fly on the wall perspective sometimes. Like in this film, you definitely feel like you get to listen in on private conversations, which is actually very engaging. So yeah, this film is primarily shot on video. It was filmed in Minnesota, and the director, I read a horrorpress.com interview with the director, Anthony Cousins, and he said that he used his dad's old camcorder that he used to make home movies on when they went on family vacations. So I think that's really beautiful. And this is the other thing I love about found footage, is it blends reality and fiction together a lot more than I think other genres might. It's like the characters are half their character and half their actor, and then a lot of the sets and the resources and the tools that are used are just the people's real life possessions. Now, any shots that included the Frogman I think were very good. They used a combination of practical effects and CGI, but I think it looked really good. And the graininess, the digital pixelization-ness of the 90s video helped mask anything that might look questionable. I would just encourage you to suspend any disbelief when going into this film and enjoy the ride. So you may know there are a few things in films that I tend to get playfully angry about. And something that we have a problem with in found footage is actors acting like they're not acting. Is that a problem in this film? Not really. Specifically, Dallas is amazing. His actor is amazing. He is so genuine and authentic. It just feels so real. And I think Scotty and Amy are really good too. And a lot of the other characters do great. There's a lot of good actors acting like they're not acting. What is another thing I like to criticize? The fake Southern accent. Amy, for a large part of the movie, she's pretending to be a country singer from Nashville. It's kind of weird. You just have to watch it. But her accent is perfect. Good job, girl. And a question I like to ask after I watch a horror movie: can you take it with you? I would say you can definitely take this film with you. There's so many inside jokes, like Frogman fucks, MILF man I love Frogman, and then even the scarier parts. Maybe you're thinking about Frogman the next time you go in the woods, you know? You may never look at frogs the same again. And you can also take it with you because this film uses anchoring mechanisms, which means they take real life places and put them in the movie, like Loveland, Ohio. Now, do I have any criticisms about this film? It seems kind of pointless to criticize anything about the film because I love it so much. And any nitpicking would just be to my personal tastes. But I'll lay it out here for you anyway to show that I don't just become completely blinded by a movie's brilliance. So I know Loveland is a real place. The Frogman was seen in a specific place, but I just think the film would have been even cooler if it was set in the swamps, in Louisiana or something, which I know that wouldn't have been the best choice if you're basing on reality, but how atmospheric would that be? That would just be a vibe. So in making this Frogman documentary, the three characters, they go out and interview people in the town on the street, and I felt like those interviews were pretty clumsy and not very telling at all. I think it would have been a great opportunity to build some fear and some tension and plant some seeds, but they didn't really do that. The interviews were generally pointless, and I think they could have went in on that a little more. And the setup of this documentary was pretty weird because Amy seemed to think this was some sort of fictional film they were making, because Dallas was like, do you want to be in my movie? So she creates a character and she's out here pretending like she's Norma Jean, the country singer from Nashville, while Dallas is trying to film a real documentary, but yet he doesn't tell her to stop her, or it was just kind of weird, but it was funny. Now, my final thoughts. I think this film is genius, brilliant, fun, funny, fresh, captivating, silly, but scary and disturbing. Shit gets crazy, y'all. Okay? There are many subtleties in the story and the story weaving. This is extra effort that I really appreciated. It's a good story. I felt like the writing was really informed on folklore and cryptozoology, and it was well balanced. There was a lot in here. But they didn't they would touch on things, but they wouldn't linger too long, but they wouldn't dismiss. I feel like the threads were followed. The threads were followed through to the end. We get plenty of time with the characters, we get backstory, context, character building, and building this legend of Frogman 2. And just so many jokes and puns and just like little frog themes throughout. They even play this doomy like sludgy band called Frog Lord, which is just so perfect. This film is like so metal compatible. And Frogman is just this beautiful blend of many different genres, which I'm not gonna list for you because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's very ambitious. And I appreciated that they went there. They could have played it safe, but they chose to be extra. I highly recommend you watch Frogman if you haven't already, so we can be Frogman besties, okay? If you haven't seen it, I suggest you hop your happy ass over to the TV and watch it right now. And before we go, like, okay, I love this movie so much, I was like, where can I buy it? We're gonna go find where to buy it, right? And then I saw that it was getting this like collector's edition release. This is this like beautiful box set with soundtrack and merch, and oh, I was like, where do I sign? Like, take my money. And then I saw that it was limited to a certain number and it had already sold out. So that's what happens when you are like 4 months late to the game. Okay, if anyone's got it, getting a copy and wants to part with it, you let a hoe know. Well, the sun is setting, so I gotta get out of here before Frogman comes out. I hope that the stream wasn't too loud. We're gonna see when we edit. All right, well, ciao for now.